Hey, how's it going? It's Charles Botenston here, and today we're going to be discussing a topic that is I feel very passionate about. You know, there's just there's mass thinking in so many different ways. One of them is in politics. Oh, they're a Republican, I'm going to vote for them. They're a Democrat, I'm going to vote for them. And it's like, listen, you know what? You could be socially liberal, which means you don't care about social issues, and then financially you're like, we should get taxed less, and you know, like, government should be smaller. Like, that could be a party in of itself. And it's like, to have a two-party system, and I think a lot of people are going against this, just the whole idea of you know, okay, so it actually started when I saw Seth Godin. And Seth Godin has this concept of industrialized age. And an industrialized age, in other words, those jobs are gone, where you hit a hammer, and if you're sick, someone else can hit a hammer. Like, say you're building a railroad. Like, that time is done. Like, you cannot do that anymore. You have to stand out now. You have to have an individualized skill. You have to have a unique characteristic that's going to get you hired in the workplace, that's going to keep your job if you want it. If you want to start your own business, you have to have a unique product or service that no one else has, and have a niche that you go after. As he says it, there's a bell curve, and you want to hit those two ends, because the middle is generic. In the middle, it's boring, it's normal, it's average. The middle is average. That's why people that sell to the masses, they make average products. That's how it is. They sell to the masses, they make average products. And Seth Godin was the one that really opened my eyes. I went to see him about 2 weeks ago, and it was amazing. The way that he structured his presentation, it was an hour long, and he literally said, you can't be average anymore. Like, average was, as I mentioned before, say you're building a train station. If you get hurt, someone else can pour the concrete. If that person gets hurt, someone else can pour the concrete. And you kind of just, that industrialized, as he called it, that industrialized economy is no more anymore. No more. You have to have some kind of skill. And it happens in politics, where people are like, it's a Republican, I'm going to vote for him. It's a Democrat, I'm going to vote for him. And that's why I don't like politics anymore. It's like this mass thinking without understanding why people get elected. Because someone will get elected here in New York City, and people are like, wow, he's doing a terrible job, or she has no idea what she's doing. Yeah, if you actually looked at the candidate, you could have thought that through before you voted for them. And that's mass thinking. They're on the ticket that I vote for. So, you know what it is? It's probably as much, I just don't want the other person to get elected because they're a different party than what I want. And that's just disgusting. That literally just irks me more than anything else, because that's average. That's in the middle. That's average thinking. That's not thinking, oh, okay, well, I kind of agree with this person, and the other party actually brings some good ideas as well. And if you mold it together, and that should be its own party. Like, we shouldn't have a two-party system. We should have multiple parties. Libertarian, Tea Party, Occupy Wall Street, if they want to have one. You know, extremism, you know, it doesn't matter. Like, whoever people relate to is who they should go with. And if someone was a Tea Partyist and they're like, well, you know what, I want to become a libertarian, and then they become a libertarian and like, oh, actually, I don't really like this, and then they'll become a Democrat, and then if they don't like that, they'll become someone on the Occupy Wall Street. Like, who you are changes in life. And you shouldn't just become part of the mass. So this also boils down to a concept of mass thinking. You wake up, you're born. This is what mass thinking is. You're born, you go to school, you graduate, you get a job, you get married, you have 2 kids, you move into the suburbs, and you retire, and then you maybe have a summer home or a winter home or some other home somewhere else. That's mass thinking. That's exactly what people say life should be. Well, here's an idea. I was at a wedding this weekend, and one of my friends, they've been dating for over 10 years. And the guy, so I'm friends with the girl, the guy, I've met him a bunch of times, great guy. And their relationship's amazing. It's amazing. If you saw them this weekend, they're having an incredible time. And so the guy, my friend's boyfriend, was in the wedding party. And we were sitting next to each other in the limo, and I said, listen, when people come up to me and they say, how's the market? That's like such a broad question. It's like when you're pregnant. If, the girls they're like, oh, when do you do? How is it going? Is there any, and you're like, you answer the same question. You have the baby. How's the baby? How's the baby? It's like, I always like to go with the specific question, how advanced is, I don't know. I don't have any children, but whatever an advanced question or a more specific question is, someone always comes up to me, how's the market? Market's good. The news covers the real estate market pretty well. It's not accurate, but they cover it as well as they think it is. Someone will think of a concept, they will then put it on the news, and then people absorb it and say that's how it is. And it's literally based on a story that someone thought of. If you're actually in the market, the media is about 6 months behind because it takes that amount of time for all the data to reach them. We're in a totally different market by the time the media starts grabbing onto a story. The condo market's on fire, and now it's like 6 months later, you're like, that was back in January. I don't know what you're talking about. So that's mass thinking, is what you receive on television. So I'll go back to the story. I'm sitting next to the guy, and I said, how sick are you of the question, are you getting married? And nonchalantly he goes, you know what, I don't even answer the question anymore. And it really got me to thinking, between Seth Godin saying someone could easily be pulled out of a job, say you work for the DMV, and all you do is take a license, you laminate it, and then you give it to someone else. Take a license, you laminate it, give it to someone else. A, that could be automated. B, someone else can do that. That's an easy job for someone else to do. That's the industrialized, or that's the industrial, as he called it. I think he called it the industrial economy. In other words, it's a labor job. It's something someone else can do. And it's not specialized. And in today's economy, you have to have a specialized job. You have to have a specialized feature, characteristic, personality trait. If you start your own business, that business has to have a certain product or service that's unique to the industry, or it covers a niche. It's for newborn moms in New York City. It's for women between ages 30 and 35 that are downtown. A niche that everyone that's between 30 and 35 goes to for dog walking, for career advice, for whatever. Men between 50 and 55, tennis instructions. That's it. You know exactly who the person is going to be. You know how to market it because they're coming out of a different stage of life. Probably the kids are in their teenage years or college years or something like that, so you know where to market. And that's who you go to. If you're between 50 and 55 or 50 and 60 and you're a male on the Upper West Side, that's who you go to. That is specialized. This mass thinking where you put out average products is over. So going back to the story, which I haven't finished, he just said, I don't even answer the question anymore. When people ask him, why aren't you getting married? It's been over 10 years you've been dating. And I know people right now are like, 10 years? You should be married. You need to be married. I don't know why you're not married. That's what people do after they've dated for 10 years. They get married. And other people are like, well, he could walk away, or they could, what about kids? And listen, their situation is not mass thinking. And it got me to thinking, you have Seth Godin saying what he said, industrialized, you need to be unique. And then I'm thinking right after that, people just vote because of a party, which is disgusting. And that's why I don't follow politics at all. I used to aggressively, and then I would get mad about it. Now I'm like, hell, like who I followed is not 100% what I want. It's like a combination of a bunch of people into one, and it's not one party. It's like, oh, I like one from that party, and then that party, and that party. Like the two-party system is ridiculous. So then I started talking to him, and he's like, well, I don't even answer the question anymore. The next day, I'm having a discussion with my parents, and it just like came up. It came from the heart. It was more of just like a preaching. I was on a soapbox, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? People expect him to get married because people have that expectation. People have been taught. You're born, you go to school, you go to college, you graduate, you get a job, you get married, you have kids, you retire, and then you die. And it's like, this guy's like, you know what? I'm really happy. What is illegal? Some people will bring up the tax. Like, to be honest, the tax benefits, I don't think they own a place, but I don't know if that's, talk to your accountant. Someone's like, well, the tax benefits. I'm like, well, is that an excuse to get married? These guys, they're happy. They're so happy. They're probably the happiest couple there. They've been dating over 10 years. There's been people married over 10 years. They're married 5 years that were not having as good of a time as they were. And when I was having the discussion with my mom, and I know I'm all over the place right now, when I was having the discussion with my mom, she's traditional. She has the traditional way of thinking. And I said, listen, I'm tired of the mass thinking. The mass thinking is, I absorbed something from TV. France hates us, so don't go to France. Russia is disgusting and they are mean and everything else. I had two people, and another one was actually Thailand. My sister's in Thailand right now, and everyone's like, it's so dangerous. And it's like, I know 4 people that came back and they said they actually wanted to live there. That's how beautiful it was. And it's like, we're taking in this mass thinking about a country, a political party, a way of life. And it's like, no, don't. That's not. And then when people go outside of it, they're like, you've been dating for 10 years? You should get back into the average way of thinking, and not the average way of thinking, but you should get back into the normal way of thinking, and you should be married. And it's like, this guy doesn't want to get married. Average thinking is normal. It's average. It's an average way of life. Listen, this guy's happy. What is a legal document going to do to him? He's like, you know what? We're having a great life. They've been probably dating 14 years. And you know what? There's probably people out there that have been dating for 20 years. And you know what's funny? The biggest thing I write in every card, and the best advice that I've had is, I don't even know if I was focused, but you know what? I was going to say I should probably focus on my big head. What I write in every wedding card is never stop dating. That was the best advice that someone gave me. Never stop dating. You get married, you're in a relationship. It doesn't matter how long that is. You never stop dating. That means you come home, you're happy to see them. Listen, and I know it's just woo-woo and like, oh, it's very positive and everything else. But if you literally think about it and you say, I'm still dating this woman, because think about it. When you're dating someone, you're always trying to impress them. You're always doing nice things. Why does that go away when you get married? Because you're just used to it. You expect it. You take it for granted. And if you have the mentality of never stop dating, then that's not an average way of thinking. So to get back to the mass thinking, it's disgusting. If you want to do something like I did, start a business, and people gave me crap for it. People said you shouldn't do it. Well, you know what? You go out and you do it. Well, if you want to date for 14 years like this couple and be extremely happy because you're still dating, you're not now in a legal agreement where you have to stay together forever. Yes, there's divorces, but if you continuously date and there's that possibility that you could break up, like, that's insane. Like, that's incredible. And they're like, that's mass thinking. So the mass thinking, and this is a thing with education, is, and I could make a whole video on education, is that the thinking in education is so average. It's like these kids want to branch out. It's like what they should do is, I don't have the book here, but there's a book by, I think it's Jim Collins. Yeah, it's by Jim Collins, and he says, if people like to draw, you take all the kids that like to draw and you put them in a classroom. If you like to do computers and code, you put them together. And if you like being around those types of people, ideas start flowing. If you're around artists, ideas start flowing. If you like people that like to do business, ideas start flowing. If people like to teach, ideas start flowing. They're around the same people. Like, I play hockey. When I'm around other hockey players, there's a culture, there's a way you just treat each other, you give each other shit every once in a while, you know, you make fun of each other, you poke fun, and it's just, the boys are out, they're just skating around. You're in that culture. That, I could do a whole video on education, but this mass thinking is disgusting. If you want to vote Republican but have Democratic views, then vote for a Democrat that has those views, but a Republican, say you like the Republican candidate in your Senate, but locally you like your Democrat. You don't have to, you have to be registered. Yeah, I understand it for the primaries, but that's ridiculous. For someone to across the board vote Republican or Democrat, you know, I understand why you do it, but how we got to that point how we got to that area that you only vote for Republicans or you only vote for Democrats is disgusting, because there's a lot of Republicans that I disagree with, and there's a lot of Democrats that I disagree with, but there's people I would vote for on either side. I am pro working hard. That's it. You work hard in the right area, and I don't care what you do socially. I don't care what you do. Do what you do. I don't even care. Like, a lot of Republicans do not believe that. I don't care. A lot of Democrats believe, which a lot of Democrats believe. So I'm like, all right, cool. I like that area. Then there's a lot of Republicans that believe that should be small government. Owning a small business, I understand that you should not have so much government enterprise or so much government regulation, because then the enterprise or the business cannot evolve because there's so many regulations. You're like, oh, I have to just keep in this box. And it's a combination of a huge amount of candidates. But anyway, we're at 17 minutes. I promised that to myself that I would actually have a shorter video, but I just cannot not rant on this. And mass thinking is BS. Do not get funneled into the boring, average, mediocre life. If you want to do something like be single your whole life, then that's cool. If you want to go back to school and go to school for your cool. As you know, it's like this, the mass thinking is, I think, getting flipped up and upside down by the new generation. The new generation is definitely coming up, and they have their own way of thinking, and I think that's amazing. Individualized, customized, that's how it's going to be. So anyway, it's Charles Botenstein. It was kind of a rant, kind of a soapbox that I was on. But I'm just very passionate about this average, this mediocre, this kind of way of thinking. So anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the videos, and I'll see you.